some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing beginnings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my own time. I am balanced on the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection, it will be my crime. In humility, I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living, we are dwelling in a grand and awesome time. We can worship, we can cherish all the ones we live inside. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, binding intuition, my hand and heart, I am gathering the tools together. I am preparing to do my part. All of those who come before me band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all the gifts we've been given to share. Have been with us since beginning, and we never noticed that they were there. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living, we are dwelling in a grand and awesome time. We can worship, we can cherish all the ones we live beside.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. Hi. Can you all hear me okay this morning? And can all of you folks on Zoom hear me this morning? Okay. All right. It is really great to be here together on this March day. It's March, and it's doing what March does. And I'm grateful for this time we have together while we are all here swimming across this sea of life together to the other side. I am Reverend Israel Bufardi. I use he, him for pronouns. I'm the interim minister of this congregation. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you here this morning to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Halifax. We are an open-minded, open-hearted spiritual community for curious and compassionate seekers. We are Unitarian Universalists, which means that we know in our hearts that there is not just one path to truth and understanding in this world, that there are many paths and many ways to discover and experience love and spirit and truth, that there are many ways of understanding sexuality and gender in our bodies, that there are many ways of understanding this world. And people have been struggling to understand and explore those things for centuries. And so we draw wisdom from all of those sources, including the world's wisdom traditions, including our own experience, our experience of being out in the streets advocating for change, our experience of connecting with one another in meaningful and deep and powerful ways, and our experience of being humans who are born and will one day die and must find love and justice and meaning in this short time that we are swimming to the other side. So welcome. Welcome here. Before we enter into our service, we take a moment to acknowledge the truth of the land that we gather on by offering a land and climate crisis acknowledgement with each other. Brian, would you like to come forward to do that for us this morning? Are you
actually? I'm doing it.
Margaret, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'd gotten used to Brian doing it. It's Margaret this morning. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Online.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah. Yes. So I have words from a retired Unitarian minister, Reverend Joy Atkinson, that I have adapted slightly. The womb of stars embraces us. Remnants of their fiery furnaces pulse through our veins. We are of the stars, the dust of the explosions cast across space. We are of the earth. We breathe and live in the breath of ancient plants and beasts. Their cells nourish the soil. We build our communities on their harvest of gifts. Our fingers trace the curves carved in clay and stone by forebears unknown to us. We are of this land, the land we acknowledge to be Mi'kma'ki, the unceded ancestral land of the Mi'kmaq, subject to the treaties of peace and friendship. We are a part of the great circle of humanity gathered around the fire, the hearth, the altar. We are all treaty people. We gather anew this day to celebrate our common heritage. May we recall in gratitude all that has given us birth. May we work together to create all we will be. These words do remind us very poetically that we humans are an integral part of the systems of the earth. But we have been such a successful species. We have changed the systems that have sustained life for us. We have caused extinctions, ocean pollutions, and above all, a climate crisis. We do need to work together now to address the greatest calamity that humans have faced in our home.
Thank you, Margaret. We are here to work together to do these things and to work towards many causes of justice. And so take a moment now to greet those people and come into community with the people that you are gathered here with to do that work. Say hello to each other.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Noreen. How are you?
Hi.
Morning, Noreen.
Good morning, Noreen. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mary Frances.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning again, everyone.
Yes.
Morning, Scott.
Good morning,
Morning.
Kim.
Hi. Hi.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm having technical problems here.
Oh, Mary Ellen. Good morning, Mary Ellen. Oh, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Mary Ellen.
further into being here together in gratitude for all of the winding paths that brought us to this place by singing our gathering song. It's on the backside of your order of service. I invite you to rise or stay seated in body or in spirit to sing here together. We'll give you an intro.
We are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place. Let's do that again. We are here together in this holy moment, and we're grateful for the winding road that brought us to this place. See, I'm testing you. You guys know it now.
And if you don't, you'll figure it out. I'm going to light a chalice for us this morning. The chalice is the symbol of our, I say, Unitarian Universalist movement. And I will say a little bit more soon about why I call it a movement rather than just a faith. It is a symbol of who we are together and what we are doing. It is a symbol of light that we kindle in our lives by our coming together and by our gaining of wisdom and understanding by being together. And we carry this flame as a community out into the world with us. Our opening words this morning. So last week for the service, I quoted Martin Luther, the great reformer, who said that if the world would go to pieces tomorrow, I would still plant my apple tree. And I've been thinking a little bit about trees and the multi-generational beauty of trees that they carry through our communities and through our lives. And I'm still thinking about the ways that I plant my apple tree. But in honor of the month of the holy month of Ramadan, which we are in now, I want to share some brief opening words this morning about another type of tree, a date palm tree. And there is a well-known saying from the Quran that says that a Muslim ought to be like a date palm tree. And I found this activist. Her name is Aisha Shillingford. So she describes herself as an anti-disciplinary artist, world builder, designer, and cultural strategist. She's originally from Trinidad and Tobago, and she lives in the United States now. And she's artistic director of Intelligent Mischief, a creative studio unleashing Black imagination to shape its future. And she has this to say about, so she comes from a Muslim background, and she has this to say about this idea of I think for her it's a reclamation of the Muslim's duty to be a date palm tree. Meaning, so a date palm, if you don't know, the leaves don't fall, it's evergreen, so it provides shade all year round. And it provides refuge from the sun in the desert, and it also provides fruit for generations. And some of you might like this fact, to know this fact, that a date palm tree actually produces more fruit as it gets older. It gets stronger. So Aisha says this influences my organizing, her activist work, by reminding me that my core responsibility is to be a benefit to whatever I'm engaged in. I must not always know how that will happen, but it has to be my aim. I want people's living to have been better, even in very tiny ways, from having participated with me in this work. This means to me that I bring beautiful words, actions, ideas, and behaviors into spaces. at the end of it all, even if we don't see the fruits of our labor, shouldn't we be able to say that we loved and enjoyed each other throughout the process? That's why I want to act and be like a palm tree, providing shade, covering my comrades instead of throwing shade. It actually says LOL here in print, okay? Okay. I want to provide food in the form of dates. I want to be what they can lean on. I want to be a resource sustaining our work. That's what we are doing here together. So let's celebrate our connection to each other and to this work and to the web of life that we are all a part of by singing one more time. It's number 175 in the gray hymnal. Rise in body or in spirit as you feel moved.
I'll play that one more time. This is a new one for us. We celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing. A fragment of the perfect whole in cactus and in quail, as much as any bird. There you go. Of ancient dreams, we are the sum. Our bones make stone to stone, and bind our future worlds to come with words that were and are. Respect the water, land, and air, which gave all creatures birth. Protect the lives of all that share the glory of the earth.
To be able to come together and feel connected to one another and be moved to do work with each other, we need, as people, to be able to feel like we can bring all of who we are to the space of community. We need to feel like community is a place where we can gather to draw our strength, to support each other, and to hold each other when we need each other. It's a bit like the aspects of choral breathing. If you've ever been in a choir, you know that you don't, sometimes when you have to hit a sustained note, you might not all hit the note for the same amount of time, and some people might need to stop breathing for a little bit to take a breath, while others carry it up and keep breathing. It's a bit like that, or it's a bit like this, our well of community, the symbol of this place where we gather to bring all of who we are and share it with each other. So I ask you to examine your hearts this morning and what you bring into this space. The complexity of being together tells us that on any morning, some of us might be glad and happy, might be celebrating something, might feel overflowing with joy. We might feel like our cups are overflowing, that we have some water to add to the well. Some of us might arrive here parched and thirsty, or chilled and soaked to the bone, perhaps. We might come carrying burdens that feel as heavy as some of these stones, or heavier. We might feel like our hearts are broken too. We might feel like we need to whelp out the things that are in our hearts and call for help. Or we might arrive here not sure what to make of things as well. We might arrive here with all of these things in our hearts. So if you carry one of those things with you this morning and you would like to either just say it aloud in community because saying things aloud makes them more real or helps us commit to things, or if you have a joy that you want to share, or a complexity or a sorrow that you want to name and want some help with, perhaps even, now is the time for you to come forward and to take a stone or one of these pieces of the earth and drop it into our well and tell us briefly what is on your heart. And if you're on Zoom, you can type it into the chat and we'll share it for you. And just speak into the microphone when you come up so our community on Zoom can hear. It's
So last Sunday, I believe that's just a week, the whole world in a week. When I turned my phone on after church, I found out that a dear friend of mine had died suddenly in Moncton. A family friend of the kind of friend that she was more like an aunt to my children. Arden flew in. I've been in Moncton all week. I just got back last night. Love the people you love and tell them how much you appreciate them all the time, because you never know. You never know when that last hug is going to be the one that keeps you forever. Barb Kenna.
I've had a really mixed couple of days. On Friday, I volunteered for the North American Indigenous Games Society at a business conference that was just full of really interesting people. It was a business conference on inclusive business practices, so it was just a really interesting mix of people, and it was just a fun day. And then I wake up this morning and I hear news that there's somebody running around in Bridgewater with a Nazi flag. It's like, oh my gosh, ups and downs. Yeah, so I put one for joy and one for concern.
Sit down. What does it say? Sorry. Molly says, we are very happy to welcome Abbas to our house. He comes to us from Afghanistan via Pakistan, and all helped by our UU SAW, our refugee resettlement organization here. We drop a stone in the well for...
I'd like to drop a stone in the well for my friend who is having some health issues and the doctors can't figure out why. So I'm here to just hope that she gets better.
I will share with you that I am very happy to say that my partner and I are expecting a second baby later at the end of the summer. So I'm very excited about that new beginning and that new potential. If anyone else has anything else they wish to share. Oh, yeah. You. Sorry, I got a little water on there.
I'm going to do a piece of floaty bark because I have a friend, and we had a difficult time, and we had a difficult conversation, and we just did it beautifully. I was just really proud of us both, how we held ourselves, and it's those things that kind of sustain us, I guess, being able to have those kind of conversations.
For all of the things that weigh us down, the things that help us float. We'll do 2 for floating this morning, for lifting us up. For everything that is in process. I'm looking for my acorn. There it is. Sometimes we have to look harder for it. For the hope that it's actually a chestnut. For the hope that grows in us all. For all of these things. And if anyone has anything that is beyond words and wishes to come up in the silence, you're welcome to come up during the song, or really at any time, to place a stone in the well. I invite you to take a few moments now, and for all of the things that you carry, for gratitude too. For everything we carry and everything we are connected to, for the earth that rises and moves through our bodies, that connects us to each other. I invite you to take a few moments in reflection, and then we will sing. If you'd like to sing along, our hymn is number 1068 in the teal hymnal. You can just listen if you prefer. I invite you to remain seated or stand. It's up to you.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, a step doth run in my veins, boundless Bless my soul like open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold weavings of time without end, my side as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. My feel the tides as the answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my soul is the wind of my heart, and the love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous of fame settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Our faith, our movement settles deep in the earth. May it ever so. May our work settle into the earth and be moved in and through it and by it. And may we feel our work move up and through us, knowing that we are rooted and deeply, deeply connected to this place, this planet, this universe that we are a part of, but not separate. I invite us today to consider the contrast between territory and ecosystem. Between territory and ecosystem. Territory coming literally from terra, as in the word for earth, meaning the land, and ecosystem. A territory in a colonialist sense that we carry is land to be subjugated and conquered and used, whereas an ecosystem is not such. It is a collection not just of life forms that inhabit the land, but an ecosystem's most important aspect is the relationship between the life forms that inhabit that land. The relationship between those life forms that are the land, that are a part of the place that they inhabit, and make up a whole, make up something beautiful in their relationships. In fact, they create the land by their relationships. So if there's one thing I hope you hear me say today, it is that relationships are everything. We reflect a lot on our work, building more love and justice and beauty in this world, trying to make the world a better place. And often we talk about these things as if they were separate enterprises, that our work in racial justice or reconciliation were separate from our work of healing the earth. that our work towards economic justice, that our work towards redistributing wealth, that our work towards feeding the hungry is separate from our work of healing the earth and healing each other. An ecosystem's view of life and ourselves as part of life, part of the earth, tells us that there is no separation between all those different things that we are working towards. That we are not a landed faith. This is why I make the distinction between faith and movement. That we are not a landed faith coming here to conquer territory or gain ground or gain more members or gain more people to do more work. That we are a movement of people rising up like the tides, rising up from the earth, like feeling that move through our veins. We are a movement of people, a relationship of people in an ecosystem. The work that we do is spiritual healing work, I believe strongly. It is about healing the wounds that our culture has set. It's about healing the wounds of the rules that our culture of white dominance has created for us on this land. Our culture of white dominance and colonialism and capitalism and violence have created for us as the base, have created here in this land. That has created a deep, deep spiritual wound for ourselves and for our society that affects everyone, even those who think they are in power and think they are the ones at the top of the food chain of the dominant culture. This spiritual wound deeply affects us all. And so the reason that I talk about this in terms of relationships or ecosystems is because to heal, we need to see this as a dysfunctional relationship. And we need to, so like anyone who is in a dysfunctional relationship or a one-sided relationship, the people involved in that need to be able to take responsibility for their actions and can't do so unless they can see what they're actually doing. And in fact, our relationship I put forward with the earth right now and with each other as people. So for those of us who are part of the dominant culture, who were raised in the dominant culture, or who are members of the dominant culture, we are in essentially what I would like to think of as a non-consensual relationship with the earth and with each other. This is how our culture socializes us. The religions, the faiths that have come to this land by Europeans also teach us a wounded myth as well. A myth that we were made in the image of an all-powerful divine being, a kingly God who came here to gain ground. But we must never, ever forget the wisdom that tells us, rather than we are made in the image of the divine, that we are made in the image of the earth itself, because we are literally the earth itself. We are not separate from the earth. I can't say this enough. We like to talk about, I'm going to talk about lessons of nature today a little bit. However, you are nature, my friends, and you are just as much a lesson as any other lessons from nature that I'm going to talk about today. So the shit that we all bring to this world, the crap that we enact through our culture of white dominance, is just as much a part of nature as is the beauty of a tree that teaches us wisdom through the generations. And so as people, as parts of this relationship, we have to take responsibility for what we bring to the relationship. Let me put it another way, in maybe a spiritual or religious cultural sense. The name Adam, the first human in Hebrew, comes in the Hebrew Bible, in the Hebrew scriptures, comes from the Hebrew word Adamah, which means dirt or earth. So meaning that people, that is, so even That type of religion reminds us that we are literally made from the earth. Man, Adam, that man, humans, right? And that story is made from the clay, from the earth. Now the sad part of this is that there was a terminology that Europeans brought over here to talk about indigenous culture, and they talked about indigenous cultures as being those people who worship the dirt because they didn't understand. They didn't understand what their relationship really was with the earth. And so that term of someone who worshiped the dirt was used as a slur, was used as a way to denigrate. However, I think we could all benefit to realizing that being a worshiper of the dirt is the most beautiful, sacred thing that a person can be. That we must bring that knowledge and intentionality into everything we do. I think about this a lot, about our broken relationship, our fractured relationship, our one-sided, non-consensual relationship with the earth and with each other. Because I told you today, my partner and I are expecting another baby, another kid. And I sometimes wonder myself, what am I thinking by trying to put another human being onto this earth in this situation? Am I part of the problem by doing that, by creating, by being a breeder? And then I think about the opportunities for love and the opportunities for sharing and experiencing this relationship with the earth. And the value of being alive to experience this relationship with the earth. The value of stewarding a generation of people to know themselves as stewards of this earth. To raise another creature of the earth. And what I see the work that we are doing is this. We are creating a new golden rule by our work. What do I mean by that? So colonialism came here often looking for gold, rather than looking for colonialism came here looking for land, but it often came here looking for gold, really. That's what was really behind coming here. Even though it came under the guise of spreading the word, it came here looking for gold. And the monotheistic religions have what's called the golden rule. Actually, a lot of different cultures, most cultures around the world have some version of it, but they don't always call it the golden rule. And you know this one, treat others as you want to be treated, versus, the platinum rule that says treat others the way they want to be treated. But what we are doing is forming a new golden rule. And what I mean by that is that gold is only valuable because we say it's valuable. What we want is not a golden rule, but a dirty rule. A dirt rule. A rule of the dirt that tells us that the earth is the most valuable thing, rather than hoarded gold by people. That we must value ourselves by valuing the dirt because it is one with us. There's one more way that I think that I can put this. We are socialized not for interdependence, but for dependence. Dependence on hoarding gold. Dependence on competition rather than collaboration. That's why I read that quote at the beginning today of the activist who talked about wanting to be like a date palm tree, to be there to support the people she's in the struggle with, rather than compete with them. Now, how many of you might think of yourselves as deserving, of the things that you have in life? Like, whatever you own, you possess, your clothes, your car, your house, your stuff. Like, how many of you feel like you've worked hard and you deserve those things? Just think about yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. Yeah. 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 Okay. That's cool. That's one way of viewing it. We have this culture, though, that does tell us that you work hard and you get rewarded, and you deserve those rewards. And people who don't have things, it's because they don't work hard. That's sort of what the cultural narrative that's ingrained in many of our minds from birth says. And yeah, well, I'm preaching to the converted today, obviously. As I do most Sundays. But my point is this. My point is this, right? Actually, no, my point is this. That we are taught that we have to compete well enough so that we can hoard enough gold, so that we can be safe and have what we need. And that we need to hoard it away from other people. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have things that you work hard for, that there's something wrong with you. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that this narrative of this thing that we have to all do is not serving us well. And let me put it one more way, okay? So we're going to be talking in a few minutes about the earth and our relationship with it and the lessons of nature. The lessons that our culture teaches us, that the pursuit of hoarding gold teaches us, has led us to a point where we have destroyed the earth so much that we have a group of ultra wealthy people. I'm talking like ultra wealthy, like Jeff Bezos type people, who have hoarded so much gold and know that there's a potential collapse at some point on the horizon, right? They're concerned about this collapse. So what they've actually gone and done is built bunkers deep beneath the earth in wherever they are, wherever those bunkers are, right? And these people in these bunkers have solar panels that can run electricity for their bunkers, and they have ways to grow food in those bunkers using solar electricity and stored things. So they they've figured out a way to sustain themselves without the grid, right? And they have these bunkers where they're going to go hide deep in the earth when the shit hits the fan, right? Sure. Now, think about the symbolism of a group of people who have hoarded so much gold that they then have reverted to this idea where they're going to go haul themselves up literally inside the earth and have created this system for how to sustain themselves and sustain life without. What are they surviving for? Who are they surviving for? What relationships are they surviving for? And we could ask, are any of us who exist in a society where some have more and others have less any better than that? I think there's something particularly aberrant about that practice of creating bunkers in the earth. But we're all a part of this society that creates those conditions that allow it to happen. Okay. So, yeah. I think that we are all a part of a system that extracts things from the earth and uses them. So what I'm going to ask you to talk about in a few minutes are the lessons that nature has to teach us for how to heal. So I need to give you a few thoughts or examples on that before I ask you to have a conversation about that. Now, many times when we try to figure out how to do this kind of work, there's an impulse that we, and by we I mean white people in the dominant culture, have an impulse to want to call or invite indigenous or people of color to come and talk to us, to share their wisdom with us. And that's a great thing to do, to ask people to come and share their wisdom with us. And we can learn a lot by listening. But what I often see happen is people want to ask those people directly to tell them exactly what they need to do to solve the problem. And often the response that's given is, you figure it out, some version of that. And what these people often describe when they talk about how they sustain themselves when they do the work is a more long view of the work, a more realistic and exasperated view of what to expect from the dominant culture, perhaps. But a rooted hope, a hope that is sustained in a multi-generational struggle that we are all connected to, a hope that sees change in terms of leaps and creeps and cycles and ups and downs, a hope that remembers that a tectonic plate can create a mountain over thousands of years or explode a volcano in a couple of days, of climate shifts that can happen over centuries or in 50 years. And we, those of us who want to repair our relationship with the earth, want answers that are simple and easy and tell us the straight line of what to do from A to B to C to D, etc. There's one place that I think we can look to, though, for some answers, and it's the earth itself. So if we're here to repair our relationship with the earth, let's ask the earth what we should do, how we can fix this problem. Let's ask the earth for an example of how we can relate to one another for how to fix the problem, how to repair the wound, how to repair the broken relationship. Now, the first lesson that comes to mind when I ask the earth in my mind what to do is I think of I'm reminded most recently here, so in Nova Scotia, we had Fiona, we had the hurricane that happened back in the early fall, or was that late summer, I guess? Late summer. And I've been watching or reading things on the news, descriptions of houses that were subsumed by the sea, that were brought back into the sea, that fell into the sea. And I'm actually reminded that nature knows how to fight back. No, that's bad terminology. I don't like that. Nature knows how to respond. Nature is sending us a message. Sometimes nature sends us a message. And that's a really obvious example of people building houses and nature saying, no, this is mine. This belongs to the earth, not to you. In the United States, there was Katrina was the big hurricane that really reminded people of what nature was capable of taking back, but also reminded people what happened, who was most affected by a return to nature or a nature taking back. But there's a positive lesson that nature has to teach us. And this is something that I've been reading about. So when hurricanes happen, you see these horrible images of people losing their homes. And that's a terrible thing, and it often, in Cape Breton, I think where it happened a lot, it often affected people who it didn't just affect like prosperous, wealthy people. It affected a lot of really lower income and working class people, and people who were really devastated, not just by loss of life, but by that destruction to their way of life and to their way of being. So I don't mean to discount that suffering, because that is real. But when you read about these things and you watch videos of hurricanes and things like that, you see how houses can get swept away and property returned to the earth, in a sense. But you also see that some trees get taken up, but there are certain types of trees that often don't. And their oak trees often are the most likely to survive in a hurricane by being yanked up by the wind, and there's a reason for that. It's because, so a lot of trees will just put their roots down as well as they can. But oak trees have this tendency from the tiny little acorn to grow in clusters, and instead of putting their roots straight down, they go across, and they form a network with each other. A network that actually makes them much, much stronger and able to survive something like a hurricane. Reminding us that there is really incredible power when we embrace that level of interdependence, of not digging bunkers deep into the earth to protect our hoarded cold, right? But to intertwine our roots with each other. A simple one is ants. Ants they don't find food and just eat it for themselves. They find food and they go back and they tell all the other ants where the food is. And then they go and they collect it and they save it for each other. And perhaps one more. One more is the Canada goose. So when Canada geese fly in formation, they don't have a leader, always, the same leader. They have geese who fly at the head of the pack, but they take turns. So the same geese don't have to fly at the head and use all their energy to create that draft that they need to fly properly. They take turns and they rotate, carrying the weight, literally. Following, resting, so that some of them actually at some points are able to just coast on the draft that they create by their movement. And when one goose in a flock gets injured or has to fall to the ground, there's always two other geese that go down with it. Reminding us that interdependence is not always just about doing things to succeed, it's about being there for each other, even when hope is lost. So the two geese will go down and they'll stay with that one goose who fell, maybe until it heals or until it dies. And then they return to the flock, reminding us how important it is that no one is ever left alone. And lastly, if you want a real world example, I'll give you one more. We look to nature, and that doesn't mean we just look to plants and animals. We need to look to people too. I will remind you that you are part of nature. Now, we live in a culture that separates from nature, so we have to look a little bit harder to find examples in our own land, in this place, to find examples of living with the lessons of nature. And so I often look to activist culture and to indigenous culture when I look for these examples, because that's where you're most likely to find them. Of examples of people healing these spiritual wounds. So out on the west coast of Vancouver Island, in the territory of Tlaokwi, it's Tlaoquiat. You might know this. There was a famous, in 1984, there was a famous protest there against logging rights. I don't know if anyone knows that story, but anyway, there's clear cutting practices that happen out there where the forest is completely cut down, destroying the ecosystem. And there were activists there who fought against that and who won. And there was a man named Terry Dorward who was there. It was 12 years old when this happened, and he commented on as the trees vanished, so did our ability to access food, but also to engage in spiritual practices and maintain connections with the cedar, salmon, and all of our other relations. But I think it was most powerful and interesting when he talked about the work that they were doing, and actually they're still doing. He says, we were really defying Canadian law, reminding us that sometimes we need to defy the structures and powers. And I think that really instilled an awareness in us, a consciousness of I have a role to do in life. And what they ended up founding out of that experience was a system of tribal park guardians. And this actually was a partnership with local businesses. It's a partnership with local businesses where they fund this program by having the local businesses charge an ecosystem service fee. So this is a popular tourist area. So they support this by imposing an ecosystem service fee and by creating relationships with each other. And this is working really well for them. And they have a tribal park guardian system in place. And so I propose to us that there are examples of this kind of being in relationship with each other and the earth that can be seen everywhere up, from the soil itself to the microorganisms that create and sustain soil, to our relationships that with trees and the earth and with each other as human beings. We remember that healing in nature cannot be stopped just because we think from our own narrow sense of ego it can be. We must be a part of that healing. That everything in this earth must be a part of this healing. That we are all tied to the apple trees that we plant in this multi-generational struggle. I invite you to sing with me. Okay. And after that, we will break for some conversation. We're going to sing, reminding ourselves of the roots, of our roots that go down, must go down, do go down, even if we recognize them or not. Jessica's going to teach it to us. It's repetitive. I'm confident in your ability to learn it if you've never heard it before.
Okay, so we're gonna go through it a bunch of times, so just follow along when you feel comfortable.
The words are on your order of service.
My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down to the earth. Thank you. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down, down into the earth. My roots go down. I am a tree living on the earth. I am a tree living on the earth. I am a tree living on the earth. My roots go down. I am a willow swaying in the storm. I am a willow swaying in the storm. I am a willow swaying in the storm. My roots go down. I am a wildflower. I am a wildflower reaching in the sun. I am a wildflower reaching for the sun. My roots go down. I am an acorn waiting on the earth. I am an acorn waiting to be born. I am an acorn waiting to be born. My roots go down. You guys sing it. And I am one with the earth. I am one with the earth. And I am one with the earth. My roots go down.
So I invite you to remain with us for a discussion that we'll break into groups for about 20 minutes to have discussion, and you have 2 discussion prompts on your papers. Anyone? Okay. Anyone want to share anything that came up that you want others to know? Okay. You know what? I'm going to give you the microphone just so.
Mary Frances, are you going to say something from our group?
There we go.
I didn't have anything
Go for it.
prepared. Did you want
Go
to
for
say
it.
something?
We have someone who's going to share here, and then we'll and then whoever wants to share on Zoom. We'll do in the room first.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about a species which is kind of underappreciated, fungi. And so there are a lot of similarities with humans, actually. There are symbiotic species and there are parasitic fungi. And so we talk a little about, how that applies to human relationships. And yes, they are also, beneficial and also, less beneficial, like toxic relationships. And we talked about what does it mean? Does it make any sense to have this in humans too? And we said, yes. I mean, if it's in nature, most likely, why wouldn't it be in humans as well? And so we have to live with it, we have to deal with it, we have to think about it. And so that was part of our discussion.
Did anyone on Zoom want to share?
I could just say that in our group we talked more about the fact that humans have developed to such a point with our cities particularly that it will be very difficult to get back to a more natural situations, that it's hard to see how to overcome what we have now to get back more to a more natural ecosystems.
There's a series on Netflix. There's a series on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix called After People. Should watch it. It's about how the Earth will take back over. It's pretty interesting.
I'll just report a little bit from our group. We were four women, and we were talking about some of us had some direct examples of how Nova Scotians as coastal dwellers, we are feeling the brunt of the impacts of climate change. We spoke about the hurricanes but lots of coastal erosion. And so I found we were actually pretty optimistic about some solutions and some participatory methods, and listening to scientists and folks who can really guide us on some of these solutions. And we also talked about the interconnectedness of people, and kind of talked about roots and fungi as well, and the importance of diversity of networks and relationships. And so it was a lovely conversation, and I don't think we were left in too much despair, but realizing that there's still lots to do. So anyone else from our group want to say anything? Were you happy with that?
That was good.
Okay.
Anybody else?
More discussion, more discussion, more discussion.
Okay. Done. With gratitude with all that was shared today, we take an offering to support the work that we do here. No one's worth and dignity here is measured by their ability to contribute financially, and there are many ways to contribute. Announcements-wise, I draw your attention to our need for people to join the Ministerial Search Committee to find the next settled minister of this congregation. And my invitation to anyone still who'd like to have conversations with me about what religious exploration, spiritual exploration, RE, whatever term you want to use, looks like here. I've heard from some of you. And it looks like this too, by the way. So we're going to do more conversation about what that will look like in the future. So if you'd like to be part of helping to shape that, let me know. And we have a dinner, Sacred Supper, coming up on April 13th. It's a Thursday in the evening. I'll look out for more information about that. Let us sing our closing song. Hear together the closing part.
We have spent time together. We have spent time together in this holy moment. Never straight to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together. Let me hear ya. In these holy moments. Nice. Give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. And my prayer for you, and my prayer for you is a peace that's true until we meet again.
Mary Frances.